Matthew Stafford got some game simulated action in a scrimmage. So, are we feeling better or are we feeling worse? That's next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Travis Rogers. Thanks for making us a part of what you do. Not only do I host you here on Locked On Rams, but I also host the Rams pre- and post-game show on their flagship station, ESPN 710, right here in Los Angeles. Click that subscribe button in your podcast feed so you're going to get it every single day. And when you're done with that, why don't you click on Locked On Rams on YouTube as well, and you can see what we got going on over there as well. I would suggest both of those. Always great ways to get the pod. I want to talk about Sean McVay on TV over the weekend on Saturday night during that first preseason game and just what he brings to it. You can't get enough Sean McVay in your world if you're a Rams fan. We will talk about him coming up in just a little bit. Plus, they say the best ability is availability. A couple of Rams running backs really struggling with that, in camp included. That's coming up in just a little bit. But let's start right here. What has the story of training camp been so far? That, of course, has been the health of Matthew Stafford and specifically the health of his right elbow. It has been anywhere between something that they had to shut him down for, to something that needed to be managed, to something that was more resembling a pitcher's injury, to something that wasn't a big deal, that they weren't that concerned about, that they'll be ready to go by the regular season, and all points in between. Here's the crux of the matter. The quarterback, who's the most important position on the field, on any field, baseball, basketball, football, take your pick, had an elbow problem, has an elbow problem. And until we see him play another season coming up, there's going to be questions about it. But at least maybe for the time being, we can rest a little bit easier after knowing that he had what Sean McVay called a very successful day throwing the football in a scrimmage against his teammates on the Los Angeles Rams. Here is what McVay had to say about this. This happened earlier today on Tuesday afternoon. I thought he had great energy, great command all day. I thought he threw the ball incredibly accurately in all parts of the field, really activated all parts of our pass game. There's a couple where he's hitting the spots, and we just got to be able to finish some of those plays. He went on to say, I'm encouraged because we can coach off of those, and we're getting those opportunities to feel what it's like for him to throw with Allen. Ben Skoranek made a handful of plays. Also, Tutu. He's got a comfort level with Higbee and Cooper, but some of these newer guys, today was a great step in the right direction to be able to start establishing that rapport that will be critical for this year. I think the last part of that, for me, is the most important part. Matthew Stafford is not going to forget how to read a defense. Matthew Stafford is not going to forget how to check out of one play and into another. That he's going into his 14th year in the NFL. He knows what he's doing. He knows, okay, this is not good. This is good. We're going to change this. Going to keep this. He knows how to do all that. He knows how to get a team in and out of the huddle. He knows how to lead. All of these things. I'm not so worried about that. I'm really not even worried necessarily about the health of his elbow. And what I mean by that is this. It's either going to be healthy or it's not. Really, there's no amount of worry, or we're gonna shut him down here. We're gonna go here. We're gonna do a shot here. We're gonna do Wolford here. Blah, 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 right? It either will be healthy enough for him to play, or it won't. If he's out there and he can go, he'll go. If he can't, then we'll figure out what happens there. That's not the part. The part to me is what he's talking about with Allen Robinson, what he's talking about with Ben Skoranek, what he's talking about with Tutu. These are guys that he does not have a ton of reps with. Allen Robinson, virtually zero, right? That Allen Robinson was not a member of the LA Rams last year, so they didn't work together at all. And then when he did sign, Stafford's elbow was not behaving, and so they had to make sure that they went in a different direction. They shut him down or got very, very limited reps along the way. There needs to be some rapport. What did we talk about last year with Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, where they're having breakfast together, they're watching film together, they're throwing together, and you develop those sorts of understandings. I like it over here, and this is how I run this route, and this is where I like to put the ball, and you just work those things out. You can talk all you want, but when you're out on the field, it's going to come a lot quicker. Allen Robinson, of course, is the most important part of those guys we're talking about. But, and if we're taking Sean McVay at his word, and there's no reason not to, Tutu Atwell might get some snaps. He might get an opportunity to play a little bit, and having him together with Matthew Stafford during the scrimmage is important. Same thing with Ben Skoranek. So, Higbee and Cooper Kupp, they're on the same page. Now, can they be more on the same page as they get a little further into it? Perhaps, but they're on the same page, so I'm not too worried about that. And then, of course, the last part is, whatever it feels like today, great. Apparently, it felt pretty good. What does it feel like tomorrow? What does it feel like a week from now? This is the management of an injury like that I always think is pretty interesting, because it's not just, okay, think of it like this. I'll use another one of my baseball analogies. When you have a pitcher, and they usually take these guys out now about 100 pitches, give or take, guy can pitch 120 pitches and be fine. And it's not like his arm is going to, explode at the 117th pitch. It's not that. It's what happens the next time you pitch or the time after that. And those are the moments where you decide, okay, maybe those extra pitches weren't really quite worth it. Were those 60 plays that they ran in the scrimmage worth it? Were the however many throws he did in that period of time worth it? Or is this something now that's going to linger as you go further and further into the regular season? The Rams are going to go as far as Matthew Stafford can take them. And we know how far that is when things are going the right way. It's all the way to the top. It's a Super Bowl championship, and we're having another parade down Figueroa. If he's not ready, the Rams are probably fairly limited in what they can get done. And that's not shade at John Wolford. That's not shade at Bryce Perkins. There's a reason that Sean McVay saw Matthew Stafford and said, give me that guy. Give me that guy right there, because if he's as good as I believe that he is, we can get as high as we can want to go. These other guys are not that. There are only a handful of guys that are as gifted as Matthew Stafford. There's probably 10 in the whole league, maybe not even that many. And certainly you don't get 2 of them. So they're going to need him to be healthy. That he was good is very good news. That he was healthy is better news. But that he got some reps with the guys that may be fairly important parts of what they're trying to get done in a week in and week out basis. I think that is the most important part of that. Okay, coming up next, I want to talk about the running back position, because both Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers having a little trouble staying on that field. What does that mean for their roles during the regular season? What does that mean for the future of them in Los Angeles Rams uniforms? That's coming up next. So I've been taking athletic greens for a few months now, and I got to tell you, I wish I would have started doing it a lot sooner than that, because it has been such an improvement to my day-to-day existence, to my day-to-day life, just the way that you feel in and out. And this is why I'm so excited to talk about a partner that I literally use every single day. I started taking AG1 because the gut health and those sorts of things that kind of a little listless during the day, and you get that feeling in your body. You just don't feel, you feel a little run down all the time, right? Now I've been taking it for the better part of 3 months, and I absolutely love it. It's not one of those powders that you got to choke down. It tastes pretty darn good. As a matter of fact, little mild, little tropical taste. I look forward to it each and every morning. Big glass of water, put it in there, stir it up, drink it down, and you just feel fantastic. Oh, just over and over and over again. You're excited to wake up, your digestion, your energy, just the simple things in life that you take for granted that maybe aren't quite working so well. AG1 can help you with all of that. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, daily free, all of those things. AG1 falls right in there. It supports better sleep, which is incredibly important, better recovery, mental clarity, all of those little things that you might take for granted. AG1 can just absolutely elevate it. And it's a lot more affordable than you might be thinking. It's less than $3 a day. It's an investment in your health. And I bet you're buying a cup of coffee every day that's just about the same thing. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Here's how you get onto it, right? Right now, to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, 1 scoop into a cup of water every day. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Those things are money, by the way. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Go get it done. It will make you feel so much better. Okay, so it's cliche, but it's also pretty darn true. One of the great lines in the NFL after next man up is the best ability is availability. And it's true, right? That you can't help the club from the training room, all of the things that you hear coaches and players say. these aren't major injuries, but these are things that I think are worthy of mentioning and worthy of something to keep your eye on as we get a little bit further into the preseason, and certainly by the time you get into the regular season. I'm talking about the Rams running backs, particularly the two guys that are expected to get the majority of the carries. Talking about Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. They are both good football players when they're healthy. Cam Akers in particular. Cam Akers, when about halfway through his rookie year, when he came back from his first injury, which we'll talk about in just a second, he was really good. He was the reason the Rams had a little bit of a late season resurgence, won a playoff game in Seattle. Cam Akers was the guy. Cam Akers kind of kept him in that playoff game in Green Bay for ultimately Aaron Donald's injury. It too much. The Rams were not going to win with Aaron Donald playing with one arm. But here's just the cold hard facts with Cam Akers. And again, this is nobody's fault. It's just one of these things that's true and kind of sucks. Then there's not much you can do about it. He got hurt very early on in his rookie year because he landed on the football weird. He got a rib thing, and he missed a bunch of time. Okay. Then last year, we know what happens. The Achilles tear before camp even opens. And he comes back at the end misses the entire 16 of the 17 games during the regular season, plays towards the end of the last one, doesn't really do much, plays a little bit in the postseason, and quite frankly, was not particularly good. He was okay, but it wasn't what you were expecting. So that's been his career up until this point. And now we're dealing with soft tissue injuries, where he's unavailable to participate in the scrimmage. He's unavailable to participate in the preseason, which you probably wouldn't have used him in anyway. And he's not expected to miss time by the time you get to the Buffalo game on September 8th. So that's Cam Akers. Kind of the same thing for Darrell Henderson. Different injuries, but the same idea, where in and out of the lineup, in the inability to be available every single down, every single week for season after season after season, or something as close to that as you can get, not missing games or weeks or just large chunks of your time. And that's, again, something that Darrell Henderson has had to deal with as well. And he, too, is down with soft tissue injuries. And again, the Rams are not saying that these are particularly serious injuries. They're more mild, nagging things that they're trying to get squared away. But I go back to what Mike Martz said about Matthew Stafford's elbow. This is, presumptively the part of the season where you would be most healthy. This is where no one's really hitting you. You had all offseason to get right. You had all offseason to do your treatments and your surgeries and your shots and whatever else it may be that you need to do to get right. And if you're not good to go on August 16th, how much faith can you have that somebody's going to be good to go on September 16th, October 16th, November 16th, December 16th, January 16th? And, certainly the Super Bowl is in the middle of February right there. So what do you have? And it's a big question of, I don't know. When they're there, they're pretty good, but I don't know when they're going to be there. And that's a problem. And that's why Kyren Williams has an opportunity. That's why I want to see him during the preseason to see what he's got going on. And I guess if there is a silver lining to any of this, if you were looking at positions in the NFL where you could probably go find a guy, right? Whether he's on somebody else's practice squad or maybe a guy who gets cut here in the next few days, and you're just trying to find a guy who can come in and get you a yard and pick up the right block and catch the ball when you throw it to him, it's probably at running back. You can't plug and play an offensive lineman. You can't plug and play a corner. You can't plug and play even a kicker, right? You got to find these guys that know what it is that you're doing. Maybe with the exception of running back, where we're going through the 3-hole, right? Okay, line up where you can simplify that. And there seem to be guys that, the days of taking a running back in the first round, the days of saying, this is the guy that we're going to build the franchise around, it's just not true anymore. So while maybe those guys are going to be down for a period of time, maybe you're going to have to find a way to play with guys that were not your first pick, that might not be your first choice. You can find some replacements along the way. But for those guys, look, the quickest way to fall out of favor with a coach is not be available to go. And both of those guys maybe aren't quite there yet, but you can see it from where they're standing. I can't constantly be worried about whether or not you're going to be healthy enough to play. I got to have somebody that can go out there. Look, Todd Gurley was the best running back in football until he got dinged. And then that was it. That he went from a really viable MVP candidate to somebody that just, we get him out. Just send him to Atlanta. That happened in about the space of about 5 minutes, it felt like. So you're going to have to find a way to get that position to work because it's an important position. but it doesn't have to be those two guys. So I would strongly recommend that those guys figure some things out, because you go too much further into the regular season, and you're still dealing with that sort of stuff. The next Sony Michel, or maybe even the next time Sony Michel comes through, it may not end the way that those other two guys want it to end. Okay, so on the sidelines on Saturday night, Sean McVay put on an absolute show, and he wasn't even coaching the team. We'll get into that coming up next. It's almost start of the NFL season, and boy, is that music to your ears the way it is to mine. I bet it is. And if you're into betting, if you're into fantasy, what are you looking for? You're looking for an edge, right? And that's why I could not more highly recommend the Elias Game Plan app. It is the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion for the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. You know Elias, right? It's the most trusted name in sports. It's the official statisticians of just about every U.S. pro league out there, including the NFL. It's easy access to teams, to stats, to players, to head-to-head comps, Elias insights from the Elias Sports Bureau's research team, and that is the absolute gold standard. And if you're looking to get an edge in your fantasy, if you're looking to get an edge in maybe some of the gaming you like to do, if you just want to blow people's minds, impress your friends a little bit, you got to go get that Elias app. Take my advice, I should say, and download that Elias Game Plan app today. New features available all the time. Take your game to the next level. Win some money, win your fantasy league, impress your friends. You know how to do it. The NFL season is almost here. Amen. So do not wait. Find Elias Game Plan in the App Store and the Play Store today. Have you tried Built Bar Puffs yet? Are you done depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys? And guess what, right? New flavor. Are you ready? Whenever I talk about these new flavors, I get incredibly excited. Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. And because it's from Built Bar, it's covered in chocolate. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to ones that might be your new favorite, the cookie dough chunk puffs. It is a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough, and of course, 100% real chocolate. That's how it tastes really good. You know all that, right? But how about this? Just 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to built.com, snap a box for you. Get 2 boxes too, because your family, they're going to be all over it. My kids go crazy for the puffs. It is the perfect treat. You can find a really good hiding place and keep them for yourself, or just order more than 1 box. You know how to do it. New cookie dough chunk puffs. Whenever you need that snack after your workout, in the middle of the day, a late night treat, you know what it is. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar, and grab yourself a Built Bar. Here's how you do it. Go to built.com, use the promo code locked on 15, and get 15% off of your order. Again, that promo code one more time is locked on 15. All right, we're going to make this last one a quick one right here, because it was it's something that I've talked about so much, but it was another example of Sean McVay just being so far ahead and so different than so many other NFL coaches that, if you're anything like me, and I have a sense that you probably are, your viewing habits are probably similar to mine. Not only do you watch your favorite team, maybe it's the Rams, but you're watching a lot of other NFL football too, right? This is what makes the NFL the best league that we've got. It's because it's not just you got your team, but you care about the other teams in your division. You care about the other teams in your conference. You've got fantasy teams where you got a little action going on some of these. You're watching everybody. And because you're watching everybody, you get to see all of the coaches. You get to see everybody, whether it's Andy Reid or Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, right on down the line. Sean McVay is different than those guys. And those guys are all really good coaches. And it just seems that he's operating on a level that he can't even turn off if he wanted to. During the game, he was on with Andrew Siciliano, Mina Kimes, and Andrew Whitworth, who do the Rams preseason games on TV. And he was joking around with them. He was funny. He was insightful. He was all the things that charming that you would expect him to be. And he was so damn intense. He was so incredibly dialed into what was going on. So Raheem Morris wasn't calling the defense. That went to one of his assistants. Sean McVay was not calling to the offense. That went to Liam Cohen, right? So they weren't even necessarily put, but as that play's coming, he's like, okay, it's this down and distance. They were in this coverage. That means the ball's probably going over here. It means it's going to go here. Los Angeles Chargers ran a sneak play at one point to get a first down on a very, I think it was a 3rd and 1. It might have been a 4th down. And the second he saw, he goes, oh, that's from the Sean Payton tree. He just can identify this stuff so quickly, even while he's conducting a television interview. So if this is what the level of focus that he's able to bring to let's call it what it is, a meaningless preseason game against a team that is not playing any of their guys in the Chargers, what is it like when he's got a game plan? What is it like when he's calling the plays? What is it like when he's spent, 18, 19 hours a day studying for that moment? What do you think that looks like? If this is him taking it easy, air quotes, if this is him telling jokes to Mina Kimes and Andrew Whitworth, what is it like when it's his full attention? Because those other guys, and not him going on TV isn't the point. It's that he was able to have football lane, funny lane, charming lane, head coaching lane, drafting lane, depth chart lane, all of these things. He's got 17 different balls that he's juggling in the air, and none of them are hitting the ground. And he's making it look incredibly easy along the way. You've seen these other guys talk during the game. They can't multitask like that. Now, maybe that's the thing that ultimately will drive him crazy, and he can't turn off his own brain, and he needs to go find a new way to do things. Maybe. But maybe he's just that different than everybody else. You got to have good players. You got to have the support from your assistants. You got to have support from your general manager. You got to have support from your ownership. You got to have support from the city, from your fans. All of those things are important. But if you've got the right coach, I don't know if that's more important than any sport the way it is in the NFL. Dave Roberts, I think, is a fine manager. Dave Roberts does not help. When Julio Urias is out there pitching, he doesn't really do. I mean, it's just, he's got to throw his pitches, right? If Trey Turner's in the batter's box, there's not much he can do to help him. The NFL isn't like that. There's a lot that head coach can do. There's a lot in putting that roster together that he can do. There's a lot leading up to the game, the preparation and the game planning and the scheming that goes into it that is entirely the head coach. They have got something incredibly special. They need to go for it every year. They need to make sure they maximize Aaron Donald. They need to make sure that they maximize Matthew Stafford and all of the other things that we've talked about. But as long as Sean McVay is there, and we saw him, he did it with Jared Goff. And I'm not throwing shade at Jared Goff. I'm just saying he did it with Jared Goff. And if you can do that, I think that you are capable of winning a whole bunch of football games in this league. And he already has. He's already gone to a Super Bowl. He's already won another Super Bowl. This is a guy that is operating on a totally different plane, and you could see it clear as a bell on Saturday night in a game that meant absolutely nothing. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rams. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen. Find the intellectual fantasy expert, Vinny Eiler, who brings over 20 years of NFL experience and unique angles to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams' house.